Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dale. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. In today's transmission, we're going to be talking about how Pluto in Aquarius is a transit archetype that's based on the appended connection of the dark side of the apocalypse, which means to reveal what is in the occultic language, because that energetic vitality has the power to manipulate timelines by taking us into the golden age, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, everything we're going to be talking about tonight is really just based on the future events that's going to be taking place as we're talking about Pluto in Aquarius, because Pluto in Aquarius is basically the foundation of transformation, right? Because they know that the energetic vitality of the planet is connected to the unity consciousness of the planet. So that's why they want to use sustainable development goals to combat that same energy by merging humans with cybernetics to create a cybernetic dictatorship, right? Because based on quantitative analytical data, right, when the sun is at solar maximum, that's when Pluto is in Aquarius. So that's where you get an influx of energy that's coming from the magnetosphere, which is the cosmos, which is basically the abode of the Most High, to where you tap into the spirit of Melchizedek, right? That green Ethereal energy. When you're talking about the Sufi order of the sons of green light, right? Because that green light is going to spark the Christ consciousness on the planet. So that's why they want to use artificial intelligence to combat the energy of the chosen ones on the planet, right? Because technology locks down DNA, right? Because they know that the revolutionary process, when Pluto's in Aquarius, that's where everything's going to start to shapeshift, basically to end a cycle as you go into another one, right? Because the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the 1789 French Revolution, right? So first, we're going to get into, it's so much information, man. I don't even know where we're going to start. All right, we're going to start here. Now, when you understand the foundation of the supreme mathematics of the universe is connected to the Fibonacci sequence of the planet, which is connected to nature, which is basically the magical equation of the universe, right? So the Fibonacci sequence is acclimated to the mathematical concept of everything on the planet. So when you're looking at these Freemasonic time capsules, right? Everybody who's into the esoteric knowledge, everybody who's into the esoteric metaphysical codexes, when you see years, we actually see letters. And when you see letters, you actually see numbers, right? Because there's a hidden message behind everything. So this is a time capsule in my city, right? In Evansville, Indiana. And it says that this time capsule, which is created by Freemasons, which is downtown Evansville, it says is to be open on July 4th, 2176, right? And I basically decoded the message of this time capsule, because this time capsule is not actually going to be open in 2176. That's way too long, right? Because a lot of things will basically took place by then. You will basically have the dismantling of the system by that time period. Now, I need you to understand something about these time capsules. These Freemasonic time capsules are basically in alignment with the Draconian star constellation. So when you break down the etymological roots of the word Draco or Draconian, right, it translates in Greek to the word rulers. And the rulership in itself is basically subjugating the consciousness on the planet with, you know, certain architectural alignments and monolithic structures. When you're talking about these time capsules, and everywhere that you have a time capsule, right, is where you have these solar eclipse exhibits that's going to be taking place. We're talking about the solar eclipse of April 8th, 2024, right? Anywhere that you see that's connected to the new Madrid fault line is basically going to have a time capsule, and that time capsule in itself is going to have seminars talking about the solar eclipse, right? That's because they know that the influx of energy coming to this planet is going to basically cause a form of destruction, a destruction of a system. So that's where we get into the esoteric codex of the year 2176. I broke it down, right? So the year of 2176 is a Freemasonic, alphabetical, and a numerical codex. So when you look at the number of the year is actually translated into an alphabetical symmetry of light. So B is representation of the second letter of the alphabet. A is the first letter of the alphabet. G is the seventh letter of the alphabet. And F is the sixth letter of the alphabet. Now, when you look at it from that standpoint, when you get to the Freemasonic acronyms, B is a representation of brothers. A is a representation of Anno Ordinus, which is basically in the year of light or in the year of order. And G is a representation of God, which is basically the supreme architect of the universe. And then you got F, which is basically a representation of the free will of the original Masons, which is acclimated to the original mound builders that was in the geographical landmass when you're talking about America. So the original mound builders are the original Masons or the indigenous Mers that's connected to this planet. So with that being said, when you read the year 2176, it's basically saying, brothers, in the year of light, in the year of order, God will free the original Masons. That's what that year is basically saying. So the year 2176, when you break down the acronym spectrum, right, it says, brothers, in the year of order, in the year of light, God, the supreme architect of the universe, will free the original Masons, who are the indigenous Mers that's connected to the geographical landmass of America, who are your original Native Americans, your indigenous people. So that's why it tells you right here in the year 6,000, 6,000 years ends in 2024. So the beginning of the solar eclipse in 2024, while Pluto is in Aquarius, is basically the foundation of everything going back into its original order. When you're talking about a republic that is facilitated by a matriarch, and a matriarch is connected to nature, right? So now when you get to the supreme understanding of the supreme mathematics and the supreme alphabet, is connected to Freemasonry, right? So 2024 is basically the symbology of the year 8. And so when you go to the supreme mathematics of the year 8, right, it's a representation of building and destroying, right? So when you build something, you have to destroy something. So the building in itself is connected to a matriarch. A matriarch, as you have the dematerialization of a patriarchy, because you can't have a dualistic polarity as you're going into the age of Aquarius, right? Because it's all based on distractions. So like I said, the year 8, when you're looking at the supreme mathematics, the year 8 of 2024 is connected to the 5% nation chart. So when you see 8, you see build and destroy. To build is to elevate the mentality and the material of oneself and others and the planet. Destroy is to ruin the mentality and the material of oneself and others in the planet, allowing the negativity to outweigh the positive. So the culture in itself has to go through a process of rebuilding. So then when you get to the year 9, which is actually the year of 2025, it's acclimated to the message of the 5% nation. When you're talking about 9, is basically to be born. To be born is to be brought into. So you basically going to be born into a non-ether energy to where you basically protect your cipher. So with that being said, now we're going to get into why all that stuff is taking place, right? Because I told you, when the sun is at solar maximum, based on analytical quantitative data, right, that's where you have an influx of these energies coming in, because the energies in itself, dang, my nose is itching, because the energies in itself is what's basically going to combat the energy of theocracy, combat the energy of imperialism, combat the energy of colonization, combat the energy of patriarchy, combat the energy that basically subjugated the planet. So that's why the sun in itself is causing a reverberation and a transformation while Pluto is going to be in Aquarius in the year 2024. I'm going to play this video by Truth Mafia. Check out some of his work on his Instagram, and you also check out some of his work on his website. So, because he shared some of my stuff, so it's only right to share some of his information on my channel as well. So check this video out.
Welcome to truthmafia.com. This is Tommy Truthful. Do you see the anomaly in this picture? This was taken at sunset in Mexico. Now look, it seems to be that there's two suns in this video. And there's images going viral all around the world showing these double suns. And it's one of the #1 censored things on the internet. Why are they spraying all these chemtrails, especially at sunrise and sunset? And if you look real close, the sun doesn't look like it did when we were young. Now it's like bright white, kind of looks like a flashlight. It looks like there's another object behind it, as you could see in that picture before. They're blanketing the sky with chemtrails, which I believe they're covering something up. They're hiding something that they don't want us to see. Now, some people think the twin sun is a sun simulator. Other people think it's Nibiru on elliptical orbit with our sun, and that's what caused the flood and many extinction events. I believe the twin sun is from inner Earth, Shangri-La, and it's
so when he's talking about the inner sun, he's actually talking about the black sun, and the black sun is basically the supersonic battery that charges up the planet Earth, which is basically equivalent to the seismic activity on the planet when you're talking about the great majority of these earthquakes. I'm gonna get into that as we get into the video.
The destroyer, or the black sun. All the ancient cultures talked about it, right? We can't deny that they're blanketing the sky with these poisons. And then at night, if you're in the Midwest and you go outside and look up, you'll notice this crazy bright light by the moon. It's not a star, it's not a planet. I've studied astrology my whole life, and it's getting closer to Earth. I got many videos of it. Just look on my Instagram. You'll see I've done live showing people. And if it was a planet, it wouldn't be there all year round. We would only be able to see it certain times of the year, like if it would be Saturn or Jupiter, or so forth. And it's not. Now, why are they spraying the chemtrails? Yeah, I know they use the chemtrails and the nanoparticulates in them to charge up the atmosphere and use it to steer weather, right? HARP and geoengineering. They spray the aluminum, borium, strontium, several radioactive isotopes, and they can charge up them little nanoparticulates with the 5G towers and literally make superstorms, like in that movie Geostorm, if you remember that movie. Now, we also have earthquakes everywhere going on right now, volcanic eruptions, and we just had this island created. This was on Japanese news. It's supposed to be the smallest island ever, and it was created like instantly. So all this crazy stuff is going on, but they're keeping our attention.
So as we're going through this metamorphic shift, you're going to have different land masses going to be starting to pop up. You're going to have old land masses that was covered in these lakes and these fake rivers and everything that, during the process of colonization, when you had the Spanish conquistadors or the Blackamoors, and they came over here and usurped you from your land under ecclesiastical law, a lot of these lands and everything is going to be coming back to the surface, right? So that's what he's basically talking about, because the shift in itself is being activated by Mother Nature.
And on other things, so we don't pay attention to the weather, right? Like the crack that just opened up over in Iceland with steam pouring out of it. They're talking about it could lead to a major volcanic eruption. Then over on truthmafia.com, I just put up a story about the earthquake in Illinois, which we have all these earthquakes happening right now on the New Madrid fault line. And there's a leaked video over there about a directed energy weapon confirmed in Antarctica. A whistleblower came out and blew the whistle on it. And that video is up on truthmafia.com. Make sure you go check it out. The twin eclipses, the one.
Now, what you're looking at right here is the New Madrid fault line. Everybody who lives in the southern coast of the Midwest, right? Anywhere that you had, as I was talking about those time capsules, a lot of places are going to be anywhere there's a time capsule, right? A Freemasonic time capsule. They're going to have these seminars talking about this solar eclipse on April 8th, 2024. And I told you it goes through 7 cities called Salem, which is basically a suffix of the word Jerusalem. Because I told you, America is the true holy land, right? So this New Madrid fault line basically is in the middle of the geographical landmass of America, which puts an X over that landmass, which is also a representation of judgment. So, like I said, I'm gonna get back to this video in a second. Where I live at in Evansville, Indiana, right? You have time capsules. Where I live at, I live on the coast of the New Madrid fault line. Anywhere there's basically an influx of energy that's connected to the Draconian star constellation, you're going to have a time capsule there, because it's basically on the coast of the New Madrid fault line. And anywhere that's on the coast of the New Madrid fault line, they have in these solar eclipse exhibits, these seminars talking about this energy that's coming in, which is not a coincidence, right? So I'm going to get back to this video.
From 2017 and the one coming up in 2024, make an X right over the New Madrid fault line. And remember, guys, going up that line is where they were doing all that fracking. Some people believe that they were putting explosive charges in there and they're going to split America right up the middle. Now, one thing I do know is there was that leaked map, that leaked naval map that shows the future of America, where the West Coast is gone and America split right up the middle, right? So what do they know is coming, or what do they got planned for America? Now, over on Truth Mafia.
So go check out some of this stuff on truthmafia.com, because there's a lot of stuff that's going to be taking place, right? You have the shifting of land masses. You have all types of stuff that's going on. And that's all being activated by the vibration of the sun, right? Because the sun in itself can cause an internet apocalypse, right? So that's where you have an influx of coronal mass ejections and sun granulations, which are sun heat prominences, which is basically the foundation of a non-ether energy coming to the planet, right? Which is basically an influx of ether. So this is why they having simulations. You got the National Guard just simulated a cyber attack that brought down utilities nationwide. So it's not a coincidence that they having the infrastructure of simulations that's taking place. Then you have cybersecurity exercises in New England. Then it says right here verbatim that the Pentagon has its own island off New York where nobody can go. It's using to run war games for a giant cyber attack on the power grid, right? Now, remember what they said with the World Economic Forum. They said it's inevitable that we're going to have a cyber attack that's going to be implemented by Iran. So you got all the stuff that's going on with Israel and Palestine that's taking place. So this is basically in conjunction to the eschatological timeline that's taking place right now on the planet. So I'm going to show you this simulation video, right? Because like I said, the stuff that's going on, everything has to be, they have to tell you. They got to show you everything before it actually takes place, because it's under the threefold law. So this video is basically going to show you a simulation, kind of like the simulation when you're talking about the Draconian juice that they implemented back in 2020. They had simulations a couple years or a year before it actually took place. So the same thing is actually happening right now when you're talking about the cyber attack.
An attack that would bring down utilities nationwide. Listen.
What it is a capability exercise to evaluate how well our teams operate in cybersecurity, both on the defensive as well as somewhat on the offensive, mimicking of an advanced threat in the region.
Partners has prepared the cyber range, has prepared the cyber scenarios, and this is one unique opportunity for our operation team, and also, as I see, for the Coast Guard team to participate in exercise this big.
So when Coast Guard got hit with a DOS attack, one of the first calls they made was to our tag. So when you have these kind of relations built, it creates that conduit to get support and help. We can come together, allied nations, work together, help
Notice
each
he
other.
said allied nations. That's basically the United Nations military factions. And I told you that's connected to the unspecified mounted military forces, which is basically a United Nations agency. So that United Nations agency in itself, which is why it's connected to a police state. Because I told you, a lot of these police stations, they have another locker room where they have United Nations uniforms, right? So this is basically working in conjunction, because when this is where you're going to have a form of martial law that's going to be taking place when that energy comes in and knocks out the power grid, right? Whether, like I said, there's a diametrical difference between a CME and an EMP. An EMP can basically can knock out the power grid in a certain geographical landmass. A CME has the ability to knock out the power grid all throughout the planet, right? So that's basically the difference.
Get to know each other, improve friendships, improve relationships between our countries, and that's definitely worth it.
Oh, great. So that includes your gas.
So like I said, all utilities, you know what I'm saying, is going to put you in a state of destabilization, right? Because when you destabilize humanity, that's when you can basically control them, right? You can control the water. You can control everything to where people can basically submit to the New World Order system, because you basically castigated them by taking away their luxuries, right? You took away the water, you took away the power grid, you took away electricity, you took away the internet, right? So now this is where people are going to be begging for the New World Order to be basically put in place, because they're not going to be used to an energy of a matriarch to where you got to live off the land in nature. So there's another video.
I'm scrolling. We got some breaking news. NASA's Parker Polar Probe, that mission may help prevent an internet apocalypse caused by solar winds. Our digital universe is threatened by a solar storm, which could trigger a global technological blackout. The PSP's mission is to explore and study the source of this impending doom, enduring heat and radiation to examine solar winds. These winds, consisting of charged particles, have the potential to wreak havoc on our technological existence and human communication. The gathered data from the probe led to the discovery of a super granulation flow within the magnetic field hotspots considered genesis points for dangerous solar winds. Though located at the sun's poles during the sun's active phase, these holes can spew solar wind gusts anywhere on the sun's surface. Dive deeper and get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio.
So with that being said, everything's taking place. So now, why is that happening? That's because, as I told you, hold on for a second. As I told you, when the sun is at solar maximum, that's where you have an influx of afflictions, an influx of genetical upgrades. And this is all based on quantitative analytical data. Now, what you gotta understand is that Meek Mill shares his going to quit smoking following up with Snoop Dogg announcement. So a great majority of the celebrities are starting to quit smoking cold turkey. Why is that? That's because everything is going to be compromised, right? Because when you're talking about the elites, right? When you're talking about the elites, the plutocracy, the oligarchs, what happens is when you back an animal into a corner, they're going to use many different psychological operations to basically destabilize humanity, right? So everything's going to be compromised. So the weed is going to be even more compromised. So using marijuana regularly may raise the risk of heart attack and strokes and heart failure, right? Why is that? That's because when a planet speeds up in vibration, you're supposed to be connected to the same vibration. You're not supposed to lower your vibration with these biochemical additives that's basically inside the marijuana. So that tells you right here, if Snoop Dogg says verbatim, I'm giving up smoking, and then you also had Coil Ray talking about she's going to be giving up smoking, right? So that's where you have the super massive black hole, which is basically spinning near the maximum speed. Because I told you, now when light breaks into a dimension, it reverses the polarity of time. So light is basically sound, and sound is basically information. So that information in itself is basically causing an activation to the body, because you got to understand based on cardio electromagnetic communication, the heart, the magnetic field of the heart is basically 100 times more, has 100 times more energy and an influx of energy than the magnetic field of the brain, because the heart and the brain both work in symbiotic connection when you understand neurocardiology, right? So with that being said, that means that the heart chakra in itself is basically the green etheric energy. That's what creates your morphogenetic field. So when you're vibrating at the root chakra, which is connected to the reptilian brain, right? You're supposed to be speeding up your vibration to be acclimated to the energy of the planet. So when your energy is not synonymous to the planet, you actually can be discarded. So you got to speed up your vibration. You got to go work out. You got to get massages. You got to, make sure that your endocrine system is in alignment to where your lymphatic system is working in a form of, in a healthy way, basically. So with that being said, the planet is speeding up in vibration. You're supposed to be speeding up your vibration along with it, right? Because the sun, like I said, is a supersonic battery that's causing up, an influx of energy. So when you go right here on Matthew 24:22, right? And it says, and except those days should be shortened, and there should be there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So the elects is basically 144,000. So this is connected to the energy of the heart chakra, right? Because I told you that the Schumann resonance is basically in alignment to the color spectrum of the heart chakra, which is also green, right? So that green etheric energy is the Sufi order of the Sons of Green Light, which is the spirit of Melchizedek. So the spirit of Melchizedek in itself is acclimated to the heart chakra. So the heart chakra is connected to the magnetic field of the planet, which is connected to the magnetosphere of planet Earth. When you're talking about the abode of the Most High, which is outside of the fermented dome, right? So in order to infiltrate this matrix system, you got to use your heart chakra as a navigation system to escape the magnetic field ley line grid system. Because I told you the technology in itself is to keep you trapped here. Technology locks down DNA. So the emissions and the cymatic frequencies from the solar transmissions that's coming to the planet, that's ether. The ether is supposed to be working in symbiotic connection with the heart chakra, because the heart chakra, I told you, is 100 times more influx of energy than the magnetic field of the brain. So I told you to study cardio electromagnetic communication. So when you study cardio electromagnetic communication, it tells you that the heart chakra has to, work in symbiotic connection to the planetary alignments when the sun is at solar maximum, when you're talking about Pluto being in Aquarius, because Aquarius, the Aquarian energy is the vibration of the sun cycle. We're not in the moon cycle no more. The moon cycle is the Piscean age. The Piscean age was the clay age that's connected to mankind. So there's a delineation between man and mankind because mankind has the cursed genetical faculties to where he's not able to vibrate with the incision process of the planet, right? So when you're talking about the Aurora-like radio signal from the sunspot activity is basically coronal mass ejections. So it's exciting. It's an exciting discovery that has a potential alter comprehension of stellar magnetic processes. So like I said, the magnetic field of the planet is starting to speed up due to the aurora that raises up the auric field. So it tells you right here, scientists uncovered aurora-like radio emission above sunspot. Like I said, the aurora, the aura or aurora, basically working in symbiotic connection to your biological magnetic field, which is your morphogenetic field that's connected to the Zohar body, which is your higher self. So those energies coming in, those are basically the frequencies of the spirit of Melchizedek that activates the body. So like I said, this is why they want to use artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence locks down your DNA. So when your DNA is in a state of cryostasis to where it's basically locked down because you're under a lunar light lock frequency that connects you right back to the moon while you under the sun cycle, this is where you can have archons basically control you, right? Because the archons, when you study Gnosticism, the archons are basically the Draconian rulers of planet Earth, right? Which is connected to the demiurge, and the demiurge is the third dimension that's connected to the lower fourth dimension. So that's how they control humanity, by keeping your body at a cryogenic state when you're talking about artificial intelligence and technology. So that's why they want to use sustainable development goals that's connected to a technocrat system to basically subjugate your energy, because the technology in itself creates a form of radiation to where they can extract neurons from the body and feed off your energy in the lower fourth dimension. Because I told you the archons, the Draconians, some of them can't take corporeal form. They can't take corporeal form, meaning that they can only vibrate through the energy of ether, right? A lower form of ether. So when the dome cracks open, that's when you'll be able to see these entities and these archons, or these elites that's connected to the cursed seed, right? You will be able to see them for who they truly are. We're going to get into the grid system in a minute when you're talking about the firmament. So now, since we're talking about the Sufi order of the Sons of Green Light, now when you look at this this illustration, you got the illustration of Dr. York holding up a flute. Now I told you, Dr. York is who he says who he basically is. There's many different publications, there's many different illustrations that I showed you guys that's basically, you know, telling you about everything that's actually taking place when you study the context of eschatology. Now, this is Andre 3000. He's holding up a flute. Basically the same way that Dr. York is holding up a flute, because a flute has the ability to activate the octave frequency of etherian energy. And the etherian energy has the ability to basically penetrate the fermented technological grid system, right? It can basically crack open the dome. So that's why it's not a coincidence that you see Andre 3000, he goes to many different parts of the planet and he uses this flute, because he's trying to bring a certain energy to a certain geographical landmass in that area, because certain areas where he goes is basically energy centers. So when you play that flute, that green etherian energy, right, is able to come to the planet. So this is basically another way to combat the energy of patriarchy, which is basically facilitated by the lunar cycle. So that's why it's not a coincidence that he named this album called The Blue Sun, because the blue sun is basically a quark star energy that can reverse the polarity of time, right? Because the blue sun is actually a new sun. So it can basically manipulate timelines. It can manipulate timelines by going into the space-time continuum, which is basically connected to a tachyon energy, right? So I'm going to do a definitive broadcast on the blue sun, just the blue sun by itself. So a scientist says a solar superstorm could wipe out the internet for weeks, right? So that's basically talking about the blue star Kachina, right? So it's not a coincidence that he named his album Blue Sun. And then when you get to the actual illustration of the album, he's wearing a green shirt. Not a coincidence because it's in alignment to the color spectrum when you're talking about the spirit of Melchizedek, when you're looking at this illustration of Dr. York holding up a flute, right? Because we know that music in itself can reverse the polarity of the negative energy on the planet, right? Because the music in itself, when it's being played at 432 megahertz frequency, that activates the non-ether genetical faculties within your genetical structure. When you're talking about psychometry, clairvoyance, intuition, levitation, telepathy, it activates many different kinetical abilities, right? Because it's connected to your higher self, which is the Zohar body. Now, like I said, you got, these electron, cyclotron, carbon emissions that's hitting the planet, that's activating the magnetic field of the heart chakra and is activating the magnetic field of the brain, right? Study neurocardiology. So, like I said, you got these energies coming in. This Ethereum energy is causing an activation to the black sun, which is basically the supersonic charged battery inside the planet, which activates the seismic activity when you're talking about these earthquakes. So Iceland was hit by 1,400 earthquakes in 24 hours. Not a coincidence, right? Because I told you, Pluto in Aquarius, you're going to see a lot more of these things that's going to be taking place. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius in 2024 for 29 years, right? Not a coincidence. So I'm gonna get into some videos here. So this is in Iceland. You got these earthquakes that's taking place, right? The seismic activity in itself is being activated by the charged particles and the supersonic energy that's coming from the magnetosphere, the green Ethereum energy, working in conjunction with planet Earth, and it's causing many different earthquakes, right? You're going to see even more earthquakes, right? So that, in my opinion, I think that's where you're going to see, this is why you got, a lot of anomalies taking place. Where is it? So since you have all this stuff taking place, they're trying to, like I said, when you back an animal into a corner, they're going to try everything they can to basically leave this earth before calamity, destructions, afflictions start to take place on the planet. So this is a starship basically hit the firmament. So I need you to understand about the ley line grid system. The Draconian ley line grid system is basically a immortalized regeneration system, right? So when you hit the firmament, it actually goes through a process of regenerating itself, right? It basically has immortalized cell lines. It's a living entity, the grid system is, when you're talking about the fermented dome. So I'm gonna show you this starship penetrating the dome because they're trying to do many different psychological operations and many different drills to leave this planet before calamity ensues on the planet, before the archons, not before the archons, but before the Anunnaki come back to this planet when you're talking about the Elohim or the Neteru. I'm gonna play this video. See, now you can see it regenerate. So like I told you, the grid system in itself, the fermented dome is basically, it's a regeneration system. It has the ability to regenerate because it's a living entity. So that's when you're talking about we've been cut off from the spiritual light. We've been cut off from the spiritual sun. The spiritual sun is outside of the dome. So the sun and the moon that you see inside the dome are basically simulators. They're basically converters of energy that's basically working in symbiotic connection to the spiritual sun. So that's why when you have many different openings on the planet, you have increment openings on the planet that basically gives power to the sun, gives power to the moon. Because I told you the moon is basically a portal for reincarnation, and the sun inside the dome is basically a interstellar vortex portal for incarnation or for ascension processes, right? Or evolution.
Oh,
I'm gonna show you another, because the reason like I said, they trying to do everything they can to leave this planet. This is why they're going underground. I'm gonna show you this video of them. They have these underground bunker systems, the luxury doomsday bunker systems for the ultra rich people. When you're talking about these elites, these oligarchs.
No one knows exactly what the future has in store. But one startup company says avoiding threats from any potential natural disasters, viruses, and wars doesn't have to come at the expense of your comfort. This is an Opam, a type of luxury doomsday bunker that could soon be underneath the mansions of some of the world's richest people. Opam creates underground living spaces that are highly secure and completely discreet, yet beautifully appointed and entirely bespoke. Opam is the Latin term for fortified settlement, and that's exactly what this is and much more. Company officials say each bunker is air and gas tight, allowing those inside to be completely cut off from the atmosphere outside for up to a month. The shelters are also armed with the technology to make their own water, air, and energy, while coming with the chicest amenities. Whatever is happening in the world outside, you can rest easy and live fully in times of tranquility.
Now, why are they doing that? Right? Why are they trying to penetrate the dome? Why are they trying to leave the planet? Why are they trying to go underground? Because their time is up, right? Their time is up, according to what I just showed you. When you're talking about the Day of Atonement, because I told you, you go to this that time capsule where I was talking about. I decoded the time capsule, right? The year 2020, the year 2176 is actually a Freemasonic, Masonic, alphabetical, and numerical codex. So the year, when you looking at the year 2176, you're actually seeing letters. It's an acronym for BAGF. So because the B represents brothers, A represents Anu ordinates, which means in the year of light or in the year of order. And the G is basically the personification of God, which is the supreme architect. And F is basically will free the original Masons, who are the indigenous Mers, who are the Moors, not the Moors, but the indigenous Mers that's connected to the 5 civilized tribes of the Native Americans, right? So with that being said, when you see the year 2176, that's not actually a year. You're actually seeing brothers in the year of light. God, the supreme architect, will free the original Masons. That's what the year 2176 is actually saying. Because in the year of order, in the year of light, is the year 2024, which is the end of the 6,000 years, right? So because that's when Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for 29 years, right? So with that being said, I had to show you that, because that is a metaphysical codex. Anybody who understands the occult, anybody who understands the esoteric knowledge of the Freemasonic context, when you see numbers, you see letters and words. And when you see letters and words, you see numbers, right? So you got to think, you got to think at their level. So this is why, like I said, they're trying to leave this planet. because the 6,000 years is up in 2024. So when you have that solar eclipse, that is basically the bat symbol or the signal to signify to where they can activate the New World Order system, to where they can create these sustainable development goals and create these agendas and these plans that they got for the New World Order system before they leave this planet.
Did you guys see the sky heal itself after they went through the firmament?
They floated off.
I didn't get that one.
See, you can see it regenerating. You know what I'm saying? They can't leave this planet. That's why they're going underground. They can't leave this planet, and they can't penetrate the dome, because the people, the plutocracy, when you talking about the fallen angels, who are the cherubim, when they came to the planet, they made it with the daughters of men. So the cursed seed of the Canaanite, they trapped on this planet, right? So that's why the great majority of them going underground. They're trying to use many different simulations to go through the dome, but they can't go through the dome because the dome in itself regenerates.
I didn't get that one.
See it? It's regenerating. The only way you'll be able to penetrate the dome is if you operating at the love frequency, right? Because as I told you before, when you operating at the love frequency in itself is connected to the foundation of the heart chakra. The heart chakra is the color spectrum green, which is connected to the God frequency, which is the spirit of Melchizedek. So when you understand the principles of Freemasonry, right, they can't evolve past the fifth and the sixth chakra. Why is that? That's because the heart chakra is connected to the thymus gland, and the thymus gland is connected to the eternal frequency of the soul, right? So that's why before you leave this planet, when you understand Kemetic science, they got to weigh your heart on the scales of Mayat, right? Because your heart, the energy of your heart, the octave frequency of it is how you able to penetrate the dome. That's how you able to leave this planet. But the cursed seed of the Canaanite, they don't have a thymus gland. So therefore, their soul is not connected to the heart chakra. So that's why they operate from six ether genetical faculties and principles, right? Their biological structure is based on a recessive genetical structure. They don't have the non-Etherian energy, right? Because that ether that's coming in, that activates the heart chakra. That same energy that's coming in to where you cause an internet apocalypse. So that's why everything is basically internal. Everything's inside you. Everything's inside you to where you can be in a state of evolution, to where you can leave this planet. So if your heart chakra is closed off, you trapped here, right? Because you operating from the ghost energy, which is the sixth ether. Anybody who is vibrating on the energy of sixth ether is going to stay on this planet because it's galvanized by the lunar cycle, right? So the lunar cycle is basically phasing out. So that's why you see the sun and the moon out at the same time. Because the dualistic polarity of the planet that was subjugated by the Piscean age is starting to phase out. Everything is phasing out that basically subjugated humanity that was created by the Canaanite system. The Canaanite system that got their bidding from the Draconian reptilian, who are the Archons. So therefore, like I said, they are trapped on this planet. They are not vibrating at the love frequency. They're not vibrating at the spirit of Melchizedek. They're not vibrating from a Christ consciousness, because that's why they stop at 33 degrees in Freemasonry. They can't ascend past that because of the genetical faculties. So that's why everything is starting to take place. You got to get this book called The Montauk Book of the Dead by Peter Moon, right? So it tells you right here, when you have Pluto in Aquarius, that is the foundation of a sun cycle. The sun cycle is the new golden age. When you have a new golden age, that's when it's being facilitated by a republic, and a republic is connected to nature, and nature is connected to a matriarch. So it tells you right here, right, that the United States government in New York State could have acted and settled the case for years, and the Moorish nation, which is also known as Societas Republica e al Maroccanos, which translates to Al Moroccan Republic Society, which is connected to the indigenous Moors that was connected to the Atlantean civilization, right? Not your Blackamoors. The Blackamoors are actually conquistadors when you understand the historical context of it. So therefore, that means that America, or Al Morocco, or Societas Republica, is basically going back into a republic. So this is why you have Nasar Jassar being activated, because the Federal Reserve is gone. Because I told you, the Federal Reserve, the Vatican, the United States Corporation, the State of Israel, they all filed Chapter 11. They went bankrupt, right? So Nasar activated, Fed is gone. We are under the restoration of the Republic of 1873. So a global currency reset, when you're talking about everything that's being activated. So the Federal Reserve is gone. We under the restoration. So there is no longer a United States corporation, which was under a democracy. There's no such thing as democracy. We already went through that. So everything is going back into its original order. So since everything is going back into its original order, that's why you're going to have an incoming of false flags. You're going to have an incoming of a nuclear strike, an alien invasion, which is pending. Then you have an immigrant invasion, which is basically activated. United Nations troops, which is the United Nations military factions, which is connected to the unspecified minor military forces. And then you got the mass shootings, which is basically going to happen. You got stadium, arena explosions. Then you got concert attacks. Then you're going to have weather, heart manipulation. When you're talking about geostorms, then you're going to have cyber attack, chemicals attack. So they need a psychological operation. They need something to combat everything that's taking place, because the corporation has basically ended and it's on its last leg. But it's officially going to end in 2024 because the 6,000 years is up. So this is when you're going to have the influx of aliens at Dulce, murder hornets, EMP attack, asteroid, volcanic eruptions, the nuclear war, locusts, and all these end time scenarios. All these afflictions are in for one goal, right? Which is connected to the sustainable developments of the Bavarian Draconian military factions of the Draconian Empire. So basically the populating of the surface and going underground, as I was telling you. I don't know what happened to that. Dang it. Oh, man. I guess I got to find it later. We're going to get into another video. So this is basically talking about the sustainable development goals when you're talking about the BRICS nations. When you're talking about the United Nations, they both work in conjunction.
We have to achieve the SDGs in 10 years. I'm going to talk about that, but with a quick introduction to the Development Cash Alliance. We're hosted by the United Nations, and we are an alliance of governments and companies and international organizations that are each committed. Each has to commit before they join the alliance to moving away from cash to some form of digital option. We've got to solve this problem. And we have to solve it because we care about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Did you know that every single government in the world has committed to these?
So therefore, like I said, if every single government in the world committed to it, that's how you know that the great majority of these wars are based on a psychological operation. So if everybody is committed to this agenda, that means that nobody is really an enemy, right? So because everybody conformed to a certain ideology. So they conform to the ideology of a crypto control system, the crypto control system that's connected to the sustainable development goals of the BRICS nation, of the World Economic Forum, of the United Nations.
Every single government to agree to these. The government of Norway, the government of Australia. the government of Ethiopia, the government of Rwanda. And the timeline is 10 years from now.
I need to get that video, find that publication. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Might be able to find it. Okay, here we go. We back. So you got many different things. You got the power grid, many different psychological operations to create this sustainable development goal. So they're going to create an influx of psychological operations. You got the power grid, mass shootings. Then you got the, you got a cyber attack, nuclear attack. Then you got border invasion, UFO invasion. So like I said, when you got the enemy coming from all sides, that's basically them on their last leg. Right? So this is why they have public meetings on unidentified anomalous phenomenon. We commissioned a study team to examine from a scientific perspective unidentified anomalous phenomenon when you're talking about UFOs. That is basically observation of events in the sky, right? Now I'm going to show you some UFOs that's taking place because you're going to see a lot more UFO activity in the future, right? You're going to see a lot more. Why is that? Because we in the sun cycle, we in the golden age. This is in Brazil.
Olha pra isso, olha como tá a minha câmera, olha pra isso. Olha a minha câmera. Sim, ok? Sim. Sim. Isso lá no fundo. Sim. Claro, minha gente, não é possível, ninguém tá tudo isso. Não é possível pegar lá, não tem ninguém aqui no meu, não.
Exactly. See, all this, all this phenomenon in the skies, and I got one by that Lifeway posted from last night in Macon, Georgia.
Sure, I should. Sure, I should. I should. We got the spaceships out here. Yeah, we got the spaceships out here. I shook. Rahul back. Yeah. I shook. We got the spaceships out here. Appreciate y'all visit.
So is people crazy or, certain things is actually taking place? Ain't nobody crazy because, like I said, people's perception of the truth is being facilitated by monotheistic religion. So when you trapped in religion, that basically subjugates your mental faculties to where you cannot understand the ideology of, extraterrestrials and UFOs. Because if you read, these biblical context books or whatever, when you read it intuitively and you get an understanding about it, they're actually talking about extraterrestrial beings that's coming from different star systems. So it's based on your level of understanding. I think we went through this one already. Then you have, oh yeah, I think we're done with the slides. So with that being said, that's why, they have the Vatican telescope, right? Has one job is to locate the blue star Kachina. It's to locate the mothership. It's to basically locate the great destroyer or Betelgeuse. So like I said, when you're talking about the ancient enemy to them is the Anunnaki, right? Or when you're talking about the star Betelgeuse, because when you understand the mythology of these celestial megastructures, when you understand the mythology of these UFOs and these beings that coming from different star systems, it's all about your perception and your perspective on what you read. So that's why they use CERN, many different sky events to leave this planet. So like I said, that is basically the sky event. And then you also had scientists discover that another ocean has been underneath the Earth's core this entire time, 3 times bigger. So as above, so below. So I think there was a video. There was a guy who was in the ocean. He basically created this this device to where he put it in the ocean with him, but he was able to breathe under the ocean, and it was able to where he was able to be dry at the same time. So he's under the ocean with this device, and he was dry, and he was still inside the ocean. So that means that he, even though he was covered from the waters below and above, he was in the middle. He was able to basically stay dry. So as above, so below, when you understand some of the principles of the laws of Tahuti, because what takes place in the cosmos actually takes place on planet Earth. What takes place outside of the dome actually takes place under the Earth, right? So, play this video here.
It comes to the Aurora Borealis. In fact, some of these solar storms can actually disrupt and even damage technology on Earth. The Carrington event, that happened in the year 1859, stands as the strongest observed solar storm in modern human history. Now, that caused a lot of problems. It's back when we had the telegraph. We almost had one in 2012. Earth narrowly missed that one. So if or when it happens, a solar storm that impacts the globe could become a $2 trillion disaster, because it is a magnetic energy that comes through with these storms, and that's where we could have problems. If it were to occur, it might take a decade for us to recover. Some of the destruction of communication infrastructure could bring about
look at the color spectrum of green. I told you, Aurora Borealis, your aura, your morphogenetic field is connected to the green etheric energy that's coming to the planet, right? So your auric field has to be vibrating on the frequency of green in order to take in these influx of energies that's going to activate the magnetic field of the heart, which is 100 times larger than the magnetic field of the brain. But when you understand neurocardiology, they both work in conjunction. So study cardio electromagnetic communication, to where you can communicate with the energy of the cosmos, so where you can communicate with the ancestors through the heart chakra. So the color spectrum of the heart chakra is green, which is connected to the Schumann resonance in these magnetic fields, which is also green. So that's not a coincidence.
The internet. You heard me right. This idea was actually explored by a UC Irvine student. She researched the potential in her paper entitled Solar Superstorms, Planning for an Internet Apocalypse. One of the greatest dangers facing the internet with the potential for global impact is a powerful solar superstorm. Well, the federal government has actually assigned a team of scientists at George Mason University $13 million to study this potential internet apocalypse and keep us away or help us prepare for dealing with some sort of solar storm that could cause this. Let's bring in the principal investigator for the project, Professor Peter Beckers at George Mason University. Peter, solar storms causing the internet apocalypse. That sounds like a worst case scenario. What does it look like?
Yeah, well, as you pointed out, it's been in the news a lot lately. There have been articles all over the place, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. But yeah, the idea is there have been a lot of flares. Flares are when the sun brightens and we see the muzzle flash. And then the cannon shot is the coronal mass ejection, as you mentioned. So we can see the flash, but then the coronal mass ejection can go off in some random direction in space. But we can tell when they're actually going to head towards Earth. And that gives us about 18 hours of warning, maybe 24 hours of warning, before those particles actually get to Earth and start messing around with Earth's magnetic field. So yeah, you mentioned the Carrington event in 1859. There was actually also a big flare in Halloween of 2003. And so the Carrington event actually was a coronal mass ejection that did reach Earth, and it totally wiped out the telegraph system. So the telegraph system was their internet of the day. And sparks were literally flying off the telegraph lines, and there's even rumors that some operators might have even been electrocuted. It was total mayhem. And the system went down for a matter of weeks. And of course, a telegraph system infrastructure is very robust compared to the modern internet with all our little cables and fibers and things. So an event like that occurring now is something the internet is not built to handle. So we're talking not just the electrical grid, but huge economic consequences, especially because of the global wired economy now. So yeah, if it happened now, if the Carrington event happened right now, we're talking $10 to $20 billion per day of damage to the U.S. economy alone, and possibly weeks to months to repair the infrastructure, because you're talking about all those little electronics closets and all the office buildings basically getting fried and harder.
So, like I said, that event is inevitable to happen, according to the World Economic Forum, who said a cyber attack is inevitable, right? It's inevitable that we're going to have a cyber attack. So with that being said, when you're talking about the cybernetic dictatorship, it's all based on the sustainable development goals of the United Nations, military factions, the World Economic Forum. They all work in conjunction. So like I said, artificial intelligence is basically connected to your biofield, and your biofield is being manipulated by these influx of radiation that's connected to all these technological devices that extract neurons from the body. So the thing is about when you have a cyber attack and when the grid goes down, when you have nanotechnology all throughout your biological structure, when the grid goes down, your physical vessel starts to shut down, right? Because I told you that technology locks down DNA. So if you have, eating genetically modified foods and things of that nature, and you getting hit with these nanoparticles from the chemtrails and stuff and barium, what happens is when the grid goes down, like I said, it can create a form of, it can create the P136 deletion syndrome, where it can basically dematerialize the two frontal lobes of the brain, right? And put you in a state of zombification. It can do many different things, or it can just kill you off, because technology in itself basically blocks the heart chakra, right? It puts an encryption on the heart chakra. So that's why you have to, get yourself in alignment as the planet is going through this metamorphic shift. And the shift in itself is going to, translate to a higher frequency as we get into 2024, because 2024 is basically the personification of the year 8. In the year 8, when you study the supreme mathematics, is the symbology of building and destroying, right? Because you have to build the matriarch back as you have the destruction of the patriarchy system. The patriarchy system is galvanized by artificial intelligence and technology. A matriarch is galvanized by the technology of nature, right? That's connected to the Fibonacci sequence. And your Fibonacci sequence is the mathematical equation in itself that's connected to the non-ethereal body that operates on sun heat gene prominences as you get the influx of solar flares, which are coronal mass ejections. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get yourself in alignment. A lot of things are going to be taking place. And also, based on astrological context, they say by the end of 2024 or going into the year of 2025, there's going to be a day on planet Earth where it's going to be sunlight for 3 days straight, right? No moon, no nothing. Sunlight for three days straight. Because I told you, when you see the year 2025, that is not actual year. You're looking at the number 9, because when you understand the numerical spectrum of the universe, the highest number in the galaxy is actually 9. 1 and 0 is actually, when you're talking about 10, you're talking about 1 and 0, because every other number after 9 is a numerical component. So there's no such thing as a year of 2025. So the year of 2025 is actually the year 9. That's the year 9 is to be born, to reborn back into the non-ether frequency, right? So the year 2025, it makes a lot of sense, because those cymatic frequencies, those lights of energy that's coming in to activate the Christ consciousness, what's going to happen is it's going to cause you to be reborn again. It's going to cause for you to evolve. So this is where you're going to have the timeline split. You're going to have a lot of people who are going to phase out with the lunar cycle, and you're going to have people who are going to ascend with the sun cycle as we transition into the golden age. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this video. End of transmission.